today we're going to talk about the weather report suite. And the moon is waning from Sagittarius.
Okay.
So that has a kind of a lower vibration to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sometimes takes the playfulness right out of the Sag, and they start going internal. So it's maybe a low energy day where it's hard to grab onto something.
Right. So I'm sure you guys are out there feeling the same thing, because we're all affected by the moon's energy, where it is, what constellation it is flowing through. And when it's waning, it's important to, go within and focus on self, especially if you're feeling weird vibes from, the outer world. And, with so much going on in the world, it's really a good time to just, self-reflection.
Totally.
Self-healing.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend during the waning Sag?
The waning Sag, I would spend some time meditating, pushing yourself to go outdoors, walking, moving your body around.
That's important. I think a lot of people especially people who are into their spiritual lives, they spend so much time in their heads or meditating or just seeking spirituality without really paying that much attention to the physical body. And when the energy is low and you're feeling negative frequencies in your head, it's just going to make it, it's just going to compound that energy. So, physical exercise, of course it stimulates, serotonin. It helps to switch the energy, and gives you a better attitude.
It sure does. The body being of mind, body, and spirit, it's so important to break it down into thirds and really spend as much time in each sector improving and balancing.
It is a good time for meditating, though. We drew this card today, which is the Two of Swords, which, you see the two crows in the background, and that sort of represents noise, negative frequencies, vibrations that make you feel uncomfortable. So it's a good time to go within. And of course, you're exercising too. You're stimulating your physical body, but you also want to just tune into self and tune out the rest of the world.
And in addition to that, the Two of Swords is two swords down, which or if they're up, they're crossed, which also symbolizes to not really engage right now with a lot of drama, a lot of, if you have a lot of explaining to do, it's probably best not to. It's totally best to go inward.
Yeah. And I think that what we're all experiencing right now is the old world dying away. You hear a lot of talk about New Earth and 5D reality, but yet the third dimensional reality is so challenging right now for so many people. Let's talk about that, going into the new world. I mean, it's evident to us that we are entering a new world. However, the old world is still hanging around.
Yeah. And
you're seeing these pockets of violence, especially in this country. And, people protesting all over the world.
Right.
Uprising. There's wars in
many places.
37 countries.
Yeah.
Wars.
Wow.
Right now. So that doesn't look like the new world, does it?
Well, no, but prior to a new world to be birthed in, an old world has to kind of phase out, and the in-between times of any chance of evolution usually have a war involved. And again, there's reports of the banks being dealt with and a lot of stuff going on there, which is more evidence, again, of the old world and the new world being birthed. So,
well, I think too, it's, there's a lot of talk of climate change, and I know there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of misunderstandings out there. This country wants to drill for oil, and people are fighting back on that. And it's just, I don't think the new earth really wants the old stuff, the old drilling and the old ways, the old way of growing food, which is just laden with chemicals. And there's just so much that humans have done to destroy the earth. We cannot carry that forward into the new earth if we want to evolve as a species.
Right, it's like a ball and chain. You can't really evolve if you're holding on to ways that you're outgrowing. And, thank God that these kids coming in, these younger generations, they just keep incarnating to bring in more parts of the new world. So even in the own families of the people that drill, even in the own families of the people that are part of the old world, they're going to see their children and their children's children no longer embracing that model. And it's really interesting because there are technologies that can support the transition. So it's fascinating and difficult at the same time.
It's a really, really uncomfortable time to be alive. I mean, I guess you could look at it as it's very exciting. A Dolores Cannon, the 3 Waves of Volunteers, she talks about how, so many people are queuing up to incarnate on the earth right now because it's so thrilling and exciting, but it is so hard. I can't even imagine that now. Can you guys imagine wanting to be here now?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting time of giving birth to this new world. And, how it shifts is through consciousness, really. Yeah. And the more enlightened ones that keep incarnating are going to push forward the new world. So.
And as far as consciousness is concerned, I think what's the most important thing to know is that we are a collective, and that we must see each other as just, our sister or our brother, or that we're looking in a mirror at ourselves.
I love that. That is so true. It's if you can look at another person, and no matter how different they might appear, if you look at them as an aspect of self, it's just another mirror of yourself. And if that person is suffering or sickly, then that means there's an aspect of you that is suffering. Even if you look at your life and say, there's nothing wrong with my life, that in and of itself is suffering because you're missing the bigger picture of the collective. And
I think what's interesting too is that that person who might think there's nothing wrong in their life, they've got everything going for them, but yet they feel sad.
Yes.
And I think what they should know is that it's because they are part of the collective, and so much of the collective is suffering, so they too are suffering.
Such a great point. Such a great point, because some people think, the super rich have it easy, or this one has it better than me. But the truth of the matter is, as long as there's suffering in the world, there's suffering in each house. And like you said, you could have everything you want materially, but your spirit and your mind are suffering. And then the others around you don't even understand. And how do we eliminate that? Again, by collectively evolving and changing the frequencies.
Well, you think about some of these super rich that travel from place to place on the private planes, and they might go from the top of one building to the next. I think of the TV show Succession. They were always in helicopters going from one penthouse to another, or from one vacation house to the other. And they don't see what it's really like to be down in those cities, on the streets. They don't walk by the homeless on a regular basis. So they don't think that there's a problem, right? It's easy to turn a blind eye when you don't have to see them.
And it's even easier to, if you don't turn a blind eye, for some to say, well, that's them. They're they're
almost like
beneath
another
me.
Species.
Yeah. And that's such a fallacy and such a disservice to, the creation of humanity and the various differences that we have. And
no one should suffer like that, really. And really, the only way that we can evolve as a collective is to evolve as a collective, meaning that we all need to be supported and embrace one another with empathy and understanding and acceptance. And people should not be living that way.
No, it's very interesting. It's such a key to evolution. The key to evolution is reducing suffering on a collective level, on a personal level, on an intimate level. And if suffering is being addressed, then you're literally changing the frequency. If you have homeless camps and you have people that are suffering, and in their thoughts, suffering and escaping with drugs and more suffering. You know, this puts out and keeps a frequency that affects everyone, you know, and no matter how far you remove yourself from it, you're still going to end up either depressed, not feeling right, and it relates back to the vibratory notes of suffering. So once you relieve the suffering, if poverty was to be at what I would call an acceptable level, which would no longer be poverty, but at a level where the suffering attributes were relieved, that would be like opening on the door to humanity and letting out so much negative, and then closing the door and positive for all.
Oh, I love that visual.
You know?
I really, really do. It's almost like everybody gets a dose of an antidepressant.
That's right.
You know, which is natural and beautiful, and there's sunshine once again for all of us.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, but so, you know, there's really, in the new world, there's no more time to turn a blind eye, to step over the homeless, to move around. You know, if you're creating division, then you're just as responsible for the ones that are creating it at a very high level. So it's really important that each one check themselves and each one reach one, and ask yourself, when you meet that other person that looks different than you, but is an aspect or a mirror of you, what you can do for them. Can you help them? And if you can't with money or your time, at least with thoughts, wish them well. You know, it's kind of like that.
That's interesting that you bring up thoughts, because the frequency that, you know, we're feeling when the energy is low, and, you know, sometimes you wake up in the morning and it's just like, ugh,
Yeah.
what's going on right now?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just, you know, they think it's themselves, and they get depressed. And
Right.
But back to thoughts, how powerful our thoughts are.
Yeah.
You know, and that frequency of suffering, say in those homeless camps, their thoughts are, you know, I'm not worthy, right? I want to die, or, you know, I don't have anything to eat, I'm hungry. Those thoughts, you know, have a rippling effect that goes out in consciousness, that we're feeling that, you know, those days that we don't really understand. So how important it is for us to manage our own thoughts, right? When we wake up in the morning, what kind of day do we want to have? And it's really all about what we're thinking and how we're thinking about ourselves and about, you know, our families, our friends, our loved ones, and of course, the collective.
Well, it's a great point, because what are thoughts and where do they come from, and why do some have sick thoughts and bad thoughts about themselves, or back to depression? And it's related to the collective. Even though science hasn't shown that yet, or the doctors don't understand this yet, but consciousness affects all. So again, back to those camps, if there's suffering going out, then that vibration goes out into the world, and the guy way up over yonder all of a sudden gets thoughts. They wake up struggling in their own mind, and they don't know why, and they have these really negative thoughts. So again, if we release suffering, if we you know, transmute and transition from lack in the human collective, then it affects the person that's having depressive thoughts, that they don't understand why they're having racing thoughts, and it's because they're suffering in the world.
It's almost like we need an illustration. I think even a cartoon, if we were to create something that
that'd be great.
That animated what the frequencies and those thoughts really look like. Because a thought, it's almost like a dark cloud that passes through, you know, and it becomes like a fog, and it attaches to you and attaches to your consciousness. And if you aren't aware of it, it really does take over your life. And then you're manifesting what those thoughts are.
Exactly.
And it didn't even originate with you, like you said. So it's almost like you need to put up some kind of a line of defense.
Absolutely.
Against those thoughts. So waking up each morning with a mantra of, I love myself, I am worthy, I am good enough, and I'm going to have a wonderful day. You know, I am healthy. That sort of thing, and just sending out positive thoughts to the world, and you can shift your own frequency by doing that. And if enough people were to do that, you know, that would make a difference too.
It would, and you bring up a good point when thoughts can overtake your mind because it's like a bandwidth. It's like a radio
station.
Yeah. And if there's a camp over there that's suffering, some of their thoughts go out into the universe because everybody in this human experiment or condition has the power to manifest a reality. So if that part is true, then as a collective, when you look at the world and you see war and you see poverty and you see racism and division, that's the evidence of the collective manifesting this situation. Because if there's a portion of suffering, well, that energy goes out there. If there's a portion of hatred, that energy is going out there, or fear. So it's a battle every day for most people to be in alignment with positive thoughts.
Yes.
And it will no longer be a battle for anyone, rich, poor, black, white, whatever, if we can transition the suffering. There should be a non-stop assault on poverty. And that should be coming from the most wealthy. Because the most wealthy are still affected by consciousness. So if they themselves wanted to have a peaceful life where there's no depression and sadness and all this weird thoughts, then we have to address the pockets of suffering. That changes the collective. And until we do that, it's more of the same.
Right. So, but we are giving birth to a new world.
Yes.
So in the new world, when the suffering is reduced, I think there'll be sort of this mass awakening to the power of positive thought and projecting it towards suffering.
So true.
So really, once we get out of this in-between phase, we can really evolve quickly.
Very fast.
But like you said, it has to do with, everybody getting on board, particularly the ones with wealth and power that can actually do something about the homelessness.
Well, they have the wealth and power, and that just means that they can navigate the direction. But if wealth and power is in other words, if each one isn't towing the line with their own thoughts and trying to do better, then the navigation doesn't really work. You end up going wayward. So it's like you need the super rich and the poor to all kind of be in alignment with their thoughts of a better world.
Right.
Because some people in those positions of extreme poverty, some of them have given up. Yeah. They have no desire to really move forward. They're suffering.
Can you blame them?
Absolutely not. So the first step is to uplift them, but also provide the education and the awareness that supports self-love. As long as self-love is being supported, that's going to affect every single person. It will affect all consciousness. We literally could be living in a utopia and in a paradigm that is beautiful for all people.
And if you really do love yourself, you can't help but love others. Because once you reach that, you're so filled with love. You have so much more love to give. And I think you also recognize your own God spark or goddess spark within. And then you start to recognize it in other people. And it's just, I think that's how, we can come together as a collective. It's really all about love. But it has to start with yourself.
Well, as a wise man said, without love in the dream, it will never come true.
That's right.
And that is true.
So shall we do some readings?
Yeah.
We had a few people write in with questions today. Actually, maybe only 2 people. So, no, I got 3. So how do you feel on this waning Sagittarius as far as it being a good psychic day for doing divination?
Well, I mean, I guess it is a decent day because
okay.
if you are psychic, then you got to deal with it, right?
Right.
But
you're psychic regardless.
But the overall energy, it's a little harder, a little more challenging because of the waning attributes, especially in Sagittarius, which really can put a damper on the fun. Like there's probably people out there going, "Damn, I need this. This doesn't feel good." Right.
Right. It's so funny how much the moon dictates how we're feeling about ourselves and about the world around us. Okay, so our first question comes from Ron. He's been having a lot of pain in the base of his spine, pain and numbness. And he had some x-rays done, but they came out clear. But he wants to know if the cards can kind of give him a sense of what the origin is and what he can do about it.
That's interesting, huh? That the tests come clear, but the symptoms and this evidence is saying something's wrong.
Right. There you go.
This is where the science runs into the metaphysics, and we can help science. So let's see. Yeah, okay, so interesting.
I'm gonna hold these cards
Sure.
out so I can show our viewers. Starting with the Eight of Coins reversed, into the Knight of Wands and the Magician, and then a couple of not so great cards, the Devil and the Five of Swords. So
Well, this makes sense a little bit because the Eight of Coins is reversed, which just means on an output level, they're taxed because the Eight of Coins is reversed, which is not seeing the fruits of your hard work. But then we have the, is it the Knight?
yes,
Into the Magician, which means, and then the Devil into the Five, which is a sign, if you look at it, the way that reads is that whatever it is, it's something that comes back. It's something that, it's not bad health. Like, these are not cards that talk about a sickness per se, but absolutely they're cards where it's like right when you're doing great, because the Magician says that they're about to start putting things together. But then that Devil card comes up, which means unexpected something. And in this case, it's the Five of Swords, which is worry and, wondering what's going on. So I've got to lean towards the fact that part of it is metaphysical, part of it is physical, but it's almost like the body having an inflammation in a certain area in the body that's not producing itself on a X-ray machine, but is in fact there. It would be like, like something going on in an area that you can't see, but I can relate it to like an inflammation. And part of it reveals that it's stress related, part of it because the eight's reversed, and the Devil coming up is metaphysically, which is, negative energy, things popping up unexpectedly. And when it's next to the Five, it's again, 8 coins reversed to start, 5 to end. It's related to stress. It's related to worry, stress, output.
so something that he can help change, right? Himself,
He can. But sometimes with problems like this, the circumstances or the environment, if they change, it can stir up things again.
Okay.
But I do not see cards of like poor health or anything crazy.
So it's almost like it's an inflammatory condition that's triggered by stress. Is what
Pretty
you're saying.
much.
Okay.
Why is it centralized in that area? That part I do not know. But with that said, many people have inflammational responses internally and externally, and sometimes they do sit around certain areas of the body. So I think it has to do with that.
Interesting. All right, Ron. Hopefully that helps you. Let's see. What is our next question? It comes from Matthew. I'm looking to move. How soon do you think that can happen for me? So he wants to move.
Okay. How are you feeling today?
I feel okay.
Good.
Yeah, but I do feel the waning Sagittarius energy for sure. Just a little draggy. A little draggy. And you know that there's negativity out there, there's low energy out there, so I'm doing everything that I can to sort of prevent it from attaching itself to me. Because it's so easy to let that happen, to let energy attach to you.
It really is. And it's those thoughts that we were talking about earlier.
It's maddening. Oh, boy. Look at this.
I guess he's not moving anytime soon.
Sorry for laughing, but sometimes you just have to laugh.
Damn.
We have the Nine of Swords reversed.
Yeah.
The Judgment card reversed. Hangman. Seven of Cups and the Devil.
Damn.
I know.
That's a little bit tough.
That is a little bit tough, those majors. But at least the Nine of Swords is reversed.
At least the 9 is reversed. The Judgment hasn't happened, so it's not time yet for them to move. The Hangman is still in position, so you can't fight cards that are like metaphysical, the Devil, Judgment, Hangman. These are higher than man. On the lower card, you have the Seven of Cups, which is, you know, they have to be careful of spending too much time in their head thinking about how they're going to move and where they're going to go, because there's too many resistant cards here. What we need to do is maybe pull a few more cards on these major arcana to why. And
Seven of Swords reversed.
Okay.
The Lover's card.
Excellent.
And Tower reversed.
Okay, so God is good, and the grace of God is good, which is the Lover's card, which is love. So love does step in, and the reason why there's a hold right now is because the Devil card's out. And what that means is it's like sometimes you have to let the devil go by, right? You have to let the situation go by because it's not for that person. So in this case, by say letting the devil go by means if their name's Matthew?
Yes.
If Matthew is stuck by God's hand, it's because, well, if you move now, you could run into a problem.
Right.
So we're going to keep you here. And then what happens is after the devil, the Seven of Swords reverses, which means you get past whatever the negative experience could have been. They get past it by staying put. And now the Lovers comes out and the Tower reverses, which is a victory for God and for Matthew, because it says God's kind of putting his hand over him at this time. It doesn't feel good, and it certainly isn't what Matthew wants, but it's for the best. And in the end, what happens is, not in the end, but soon, the Lover's card comes out to show an easy move to the place that you're meant to be. Maybe what it meant is because that Seven of Cups, maybe if it was in Matt's control, he would have had to move 7 different times to Sunway because he couldn't find the right place. And by waiting, it allows for this person to prosper in their new place.
Is there any time sequence here? Time of events?
Should we pull a couple of cards on
the
time?
timing?
Yeah.
Star card reversed.
Oh, boy.
10 of Wands reversed. And Knight of Wands.
Well, that's a weird set of cards because on one hand, when the stars reverse, you can't see your way. You can't see where you're headed. But with the 10 reverse into the Knight of Wands, that would mean, and this doesn't necessarily answer me on time, but it's a 10, which to a 4. Okay, the 4. So we're looking at a season before, at least 4 months before of staying put, and sometime before the 10th month. So for the next 4 months, they're going to be where they are. They might even be upwards to 10 months, but sometime by then, the Knight of Wands comes out, which is the action-oriented card of movement. And it's probably going to be a knight, which is another person helping out to some regards.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, Matthew. Hang in there. Don't give up hope.
No.
Or faith.
Or faith.
All right, so our last person is Anne looking for a love reading. Let's lighten things up with a love reading.
I hope so, but that's kind of a double-edged sword.
I know, I'm saying lighten things up, but...
We hope so, yeah.
You never know.
Love is such a hard investment sometimes.
There.
Oh, wow.
Starts with the Ace of Cups.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Okay. Ace of Cups, of course, which is wonderful for love. But the 5 of Swords, 9 of Coins reversed, 5 of Coins, and the Justice card.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Because
you do?
I
Why?
do in a way.
Because I can't read that.
I can see it with first of all, the Ace of Cups, right? To start the questions about love, and to start with the Ace of Cups, is it does mean a door is opening, or a door is open for love to come through. Now, some people say, well, what's money got to do with love? Well, money sometimes has a lot to do with love, and has a lot to do with how love really can play itself out to the highest degree, right? So in this case, when we have the Five of Swords with the Nine of Coins reversed, what's hindering part of the love is concern and worry for money. And the Nine of Coins is reversed, which really you feel that. That's something, no matter how strong your love is, if there's that degree of financial worry, sometimes it can affect love. But so then we go on to the Five of Coins into Justice, which means wonderful things. It means, first of all, from a 9 reverse to go to a 5 is growth of money. Now, a 5 is still not a 9, but it's better than a 9 reverse. So you get to a point, this person gets to a point where they reach a crossroad and money presents itself, and then justice comes out. So you end with justice, which means all deficiencies, all difficulties will turn into justice and success with some opportunity. I think for this person, they're going to come, the love is there. The Ace of Cups is there. But at some point, what's going to make the love better is they're going to get to a crossroad that has something to do with finances. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? And the way they end up going is extremely successful. And, money can help love. It can foster it to be stronger and reduce worry and stress. So that's what I see happening here.
Well, anytime you're reducing worry and stress, it opens you up to experiencing love.
Yeah.
Because if you are under stress all the time or worried, I think it just blocks anything positive. It puts a damper on all good things. Worry does. And worry doesn't really help matters any, does it?
Not really. No, it just compounds them even more.
Well, Anne, I hope this helped you. I think that was a great reading. Thank you so much for your question. And I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Bye now.